When I hometown hero in Indianapolis, there were so many little girls asking for my autograph. When I was racing, people were asking for my autograph. And you're thinking to yourself, this doesn't mean anything right now, but I better make it mean something in 10 years. I better make them look at this and be like, wow, she made it. She did it. She made, her mark on the game.
Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey, one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by friend of the show, Megan McKay, a defender from Zionsville, Indiana. Megan, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Chris. I'm super excited to be back. I've always loved, chatting with you, and it's an exciting time.
It absolutely is. And before we talk about this past year at Clarkson, your collegiate career, and of course, this exciting next chapter, I do just want to say that, of course, we're going to be talking about those things. So if you are interested to learn even more about Megan's career journey up to this point, including that she won Driver of the Year, I'm not kidding. I didn't misspeak on that. Make sure to check out episode 96 of the show. I will have that linked in the show notes. It's a fantastic episode. You will absolutely love it just as much as we both did, of course. So when we last spoke, you were in the very early stages of your move from Mercyhurst to Clarkson. So I wanted to talk to you about what this last year, what the big takeaways, what the experience was like, and the growth that you've gone through over this last season with Clarkson.
Certainly. I mean, I think growth is just the word to describe it. That's why I made the move to transfer. It's always been to continue to get better and to continue to develop and challenge myself. And that's exactly what I got out of Clarkson. Like every day of practice, I know I got better in the weight room, the coaching staff, all of that combined. I went in with the mindset that, I want to grow and develop. And I think that's exactly what happened.
4 years of college. What does it feel? Does it feel like you just started? Does it feel like it's already been 4 years for you?
It's hard to put into words because I've loved every single year and it really did fly by. But I am excited, for the next step. I feel, there's still a huge ceiling for me to reach, and I'm not even close to that. And, I wish I had more time in college hockey, but I'm super excited for the next stage as well.
And something that we spoke about the last time that you were on the show as well is, of course, being an incredible athlete has always been something that you want to continue improving on, continue getting even better and better, as you mentioned in the weight room, on in the mental side of the game as well. Another aspect is, of course, academically. And so I just wanted to find out now that, your collegiate career, I was going to say, is behind you. It is very fresh in the rearview mirror, of course. But when you think about the academic side, how, how have you found that academics have ultimately played a part in your on ice production, in your on ice game, in the way that you methodically approach the game of hockey as well?
I see so many comparisons. It's kind of funny to see how, if you're not organized with your schoolwork, if you're not getting assignments in on time, it kind of translates to the ice. It translates to your management in the workout room. Are you getting to the rink early? Are you stressed because of school? So I do think it plays a huge role. And I experienced this year a lot more work than I've ever been used to. Even though doing a double major, a 1 year MBA program was a big acceleration for me, and the first 4 months was a huge adjustment, and I had to make sure, like, I was performing in the classroom and then also on the ice, and that was, like, a big load that I didn't really expect, but I was happy to take that challenge because I knew it was all gonna be worth it.
Yeah, so then it begs the question, when you maybe set out, I think it's important to distinguish thinking you could do all of these things is certainly one thing. Having to actually follow through and do all of those things is certainly another thing. But when you're able to accomplish what you've accomplished academically, of course, balanced out with what you've done, the growth and everything that you've experienced on the ice. What does that taught you about yourself? What is the fact that you were able to set your mind to something, you were able to do it, and now look at you on the verge of making this next exciting jump?
I think I've really learned that, I could handle a lot and I can be passionate about multiple things, whether it's schoolwork, whether it's the extra stuff, broadcasting, and I can still excel at the sport I love to excel in. Like, I don't see any of it as a distraction because, being busy is great for me. I love, constantly being able to help out people and make an impact in any way possible. I don't really have time to sit on the couch and watch TV these days because I feel like I'm always on the move. I'm always doing something, and I love it that way. I love the excitement in that.
Okay, so earlier we spoke briefly about the growth and the development that you've gone through, of course, in this final season at Clarkson, but over your time with Mercyhurst and with Clarkson, I want to actually hear from you about some of those specifics, some of those specific experiences that you had that are going to maybe live on in your memory about, these are really important moments. Maybe they weren't necessarily, it wasn't a big win or maybe a tough loss, but there were big takeaways throughout your collegiate career. Could you talk about some of those, we'll call them milestones, or some of those specific experiences that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think the one that comes to mind is my freshman year when we were in the championship game against Penn State, down at State College in Pagula Ice Arena. And that facility is just, it's such a fun atmosphere to be a part of because regardless if they're cheering for you or booing for you, it's just a cool college hockey atmosphere. And, that was my first time going into a college hockey game where it was a one game championship. And you could feel the tenseness in the locker room, and I remember just as a freshman, no one was really speaking up, and I spoke up and I said, "Every day we walk in the halls of, Mercyhurst, and we see all these past teams that have pretty much etched the program," because, that's why I came to Mercyhurst, just because they were winning championships after championships. They had a proven track record for success. And I said, we walk through the halls every day before we get on the ice to get better. And, we see all those, female athletes who have shaped hockey, college hockey, and inevitably the professional league. Why can't we be a part of that? Like, why can't we, make our mark and, wear the crest proudly? And, I think it brought everyone to tears in the locker room because that was a moment for me where I kind of felt like this is my role on this team is to make an impact on the ice and to lead and get people to follow behind me. And that's just kind of the role I've taken throughout my entire college hockey career is get people to hop on the train to be successful and to, wear the team's emblem proudly.
So then, what did it mean to you to be able to come to that conclusion so early in your collegiate career? Do you think it made a difference in terms of how you approach the game, how you approach, of course, everything outside of the game as well, and having that sort of mindset established in you so early in your collegiate career?
Of course, I think it just kind of went to show how passionate I am about the game and how much I want to win and succeed. And it's all about the team eventually. Like, you're winning not for individual accolades, you're winning, to get championships as a team. And I think each year I've brought that leadership and that confidence, and that kind of separates me as a player, is I bring a lot more of that outspoken, like, team camaraderie. Like, I'm gonna sacrifice my body for the team. I'll be a shutdown dude. I'll be offensive, whatever the team needs. Like, I kind of am a versatile player that I'll do what's necessary.
Okay, so we have a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the off ice stuff that you're the extracurricular that you're doing. One of those is it hits a little bit close to home for me because you are also a fellow podcaster. So I wanted to talk about your podcast, Her Shift. It's fantastic, great guests. Could you talk a little bit more about why that was something that you wanted to start, why it was important, and what that experience has been like for you?
Certainly, I think, Her Shift is a new podcast I created because it kind of emulates my personality. I love talking with people. I love getting people's insight. Like, what are you doing in the weight room? What does your training schedule look like? Everything basically to be a better athlete and a better female because, you always want to get the next step. You always want to be the best in any way possible. And so many different experiences I've gone through on my journey, I feel I've learned so much. And just when I was mentoring younger athletes, I was sharing these stories with them, and I'm like, "This could really help more than the 6 girls I've been talking to. So we could help, hundreds, thousands." And just along the way of my journey, I've met so many incredible people that all have such interesting, paths that have gotten them to where they are today. And I really want to share that and, be an inside voice because I am pursuing pro hockey. I am a college hockey player. So I feel, it's a more, in-depth look. And yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to progressing it more.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I'll make sure to link that, of course, in the show notes as well. But being able to connect with people, especially to be able to hear their story, to hear a little bit more behind the athlete. Do you feel like that's been something that's you mentioned the passion you have for talking to people and connecting with people. Do you feel like that's been something that's been super rewarding for you and maybe it's lended perspective to how you view the game, how passionate you are about the game when you're having this chance to talk to people who are equally as passionate about the game and have really fantastic stories?
Yeah. I mean, those conversations are, you know, they help connect you with more people, and then you're like, "Oh, I know this person. I've talked with them about this," and it's great. I love relationship building. So many people there's so many incredible people in women's hockey and hockey in general, and it's such a fun sport, and I really just want people to see that and respect that, how, everyone cares and wants to grow the game in any way possible.
Yeah, and when we look at growing the game for you in particular, that means, as I alluded to, a lot of extracurriculars, including being a part of the broadcast team for the men's program. What's that been like for you? What's it been like for you to see the game from behind the microphone? What's that experience been like for you?
It gives you more of an analytical look at things. I think, during the game, you don't think as much. You kind of just play and rely on your preparation and your practice. But when you're in between the glass, watching the men's game has given me a lot of, wow, I'm saying this out loud. Like what you've heard the term, like you teach a man how to fish, like you set him up for life. That's kind of it. Like once I start teaching and talking about it, it's like it's really emulating deep down what I wanna do on the ice, and, I love working with the guys because I see them every day, we're at the rink every day, we're in the gym every day, and it's just talking about your best friends, what they're excelling at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And continuing down this road of things that the impact that you're having away from the game as well. You also took part in the PWHL's takeover tour in their stop in Detroit. You helped to lead a clinic with the polar bears. What was that like for you? And what's it like? I guess from the outside, it's obvious the PWHL's takeover tour. It's making an impact in every one of these communities. We're seeing great turnouts, great records in terms of attendance, but you actually had sort of an inside look as to the direct impact that these experiences can have on the community itself as well. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I've been working with the NHL Foundation, similar to an ambassador role, and Rob Woolley and Haley Skarupa have kind of mentored me because I had met them in Lake Placid when I was at the USA College Festival. And being there, I, made connections. I wasn't just playing on the ice, I was talking to them, figuring out like how people were training and the exact way that this PWHL expansion was gonna look, and the Detroit opportunity was awesome because not only did I get to, witness what a potential new, expansion team would look like and the kinda ends of that and the fan base behind that, but these senior polar bear women have been playing hockey since the '70s, '80s, and, they're still competitive, they're still playing in national championships, and it gives you a lot of, warmth in your heart that, the game really does extend beyond the youth level and the pro level. It's a lifetime game.
That's really inspiring stuff, right? Um, when we look at all of these, we're looking at things like broadcasting. We're looking at your continued mentorship. We are also talking about business networking. Things like connecting Cleveland as well, which is something that you took part in. How do those experiences maybe help to shape the kind of professional you also want to be when you make it to the PWHL? Because it's more than just, especially now, we're seeing it's not just about being a great hockey player. There are so many other layers to being a pro. What is that? What have those experiences helped you to kind of formulate around how you want to perceive yourself as a professional?
Yeah, I look at it like a resume. When you're looking at the draft class this year, everyone looks at stats. And, sometimes you need the right fit for your team. Sometimes you don't just need a leading goal scorer, leading point getter. Sometimes you need someone who's doing the dirty work, who, is getting the job done in, maybe not the flashiest of areas. So I think that goes to show with the stuff I do on on the side too. Like, when you're picking up Megan McKay in the draft, you're not just picking up, a two-way defenseman shutdown D. You're also putting, your money in the basket for someone who is gonna bring up your team culture because I'm relationship oriented. I'm gonna do the extra in the weight room, but also off the ice because the little girls out there like me who is in Indiana with no role model, they deserve someone who is gonna give them the time of day and, help them develop in any way possible. And, these expansion teams are so fun to watch because you see where the hockey markets want to be. Like, so many teams want fans. In so many, markets want a team to cheer for.
Have you found, and maybe this is a silly question, but have you found that the engagement that you've had and the networks that you've built or that you continue to build around the game have also fueled how you want to make it at the next level, how you want to continue to challenge yourself? I mean, you do it anyways, but do you find like it's on another level because you see the impact and you've seen it firsthand as well?
For sure. I mean, in the weight room, I'm always someone who wants to do the extra reps, but when when you pull out a camera and you kind of think internally, this is going to go on the internet because I'm inspiring the next generation. You know, yeah, I'm going stronger in the gym for sure. Like, I want to be the fastest I can be. I want to reach my potential because it's the girl behind me who is like, "I wanna be like Megan McKay." When I hometown hero in Indianapolis, there were so many little girls asking for my autograph. When I was racing, people were asking for my autograph, and you're thinking to yourself, "This doesn't mean anything right now, but I better make it mean something in 10 years. I better make them look at this and be like, 'Wow, she made it. She did it. She made, her mark on the game.'"
Wow. What a quote
That's
that
a lot.
was. Yeah, my goodness, that was solid. That was right off the cuff too. Wow,
Yeah.
that was good. That
I
was
don't have
good.
a teleprompter, I promise.
No, that was solid. That was solid. Okay, so I want to leave a bulk of our conversation open to talking about this next chapter. So let's dive into that because I think, of course, that's what this has all led to. With the draft on the horizon, it's obviously a huge moment for you. Does it feel like there's a bit of pressure there, or does it more? Are you finding that it's more like, like I'm finally at the nearing the finish line? How are you feeling right now?
There's a lot of emotions going through it because there is so much unknown, but I've just taken what I can control, and that's just, everything happens for a reason. There is a little bit of sigh, like, okay, the stress is over of the your whole college career leading up to this moment. It's like you finally got in there. And, I'm just excited, a little bit nervous, but I think it's good emotion.
We've talked about how important it is for you to be a really good role model for that next generation. Of course, when you look at the PWHL, like it is difficult to ignore the incredible signage that's at every rink from these young girls who are already feeling so inspired, finally being able to see players who look just like them. Do you feel so we've talked about it, but I want to ask it in a bit of a different way. Do you feel a responsibility to take that torch from the women who have built this league, have built to this moment? Do you feel a responsibility to take that torch and to skate with it and to just absolutely elevate the game and carry it to an even bigger level?
That's the name of the game for sure. I think, looking back when I was, growing up, it was always Kendall Coyne, like skating with her, being up in Chicago. And she said it herself. She didn't help create this league to play in it. She helped create it for the next generation, so people have a league 100, 200 years from now. And I'm happy to take that torch. I feel they've carried a big burden on their shoulders with pay equity and proper treatment, and I think they've done a phenomenal job, and if we as an upcoming class and generation can take that torch off their hands and let them finally relax and take a moment to breathe, I think it'll be perfect.
Do you like how are you handling the mental side of this? Because I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? Not only are you wondering, am I going to hear my name called? But you're also asking yourself, if I hear my name called, where am I going to play? There's also expansion. Where could those new cities be? So there's tons that's up in the air. How are you handling the mental side of this? Because I know that's something that you've been focused on throughout your career as well.
Mentally, I think you really can't think over or overthink, the process. Because, the more you think, the more you try and analyze, the deeper you're gonna dig yourself in a hole. So, I've tried to focus on just staying in the present, getting better 1% every day, because regardless of where you get drafted, the goal is always to play. And what can you control about playing? You can control, your physical and your mental preparation, which, for me is just staying confident with, the practice I'm putting in and trying to really stay clear of that negative space.
A phrase that I hear often is be where your feet are. Is that sort of your mentality as you're looking at what this next chapter is? Think the cards will fall how they fall. You know that there will be a future wherever it ends up taking you. Is that sort of a mentality that's also really helpful in this moment? I'm asking partly because, of course, I want to hear, but also I'm wondering if this is a mentality that maybe a lot of other players, both present and future, could also take in these big moments that are undoubtedly weighing on you, whether you know it or not. They're of course weighing on you. Is that a mentality that's been really helpful for you?
Yeah, and credit to you for saying that because sometimes you do get caught thinking about the future. You do get thought being like, "What team wants me? Where am I gonna?" And especially now that our season's over, I inevitably, that's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about that, and so you really need to, like, take a second, and that's why I really enjoy being in the weight room and being on the ice because it keeps your mind off of, the sitting and thinking and wondering. By focusing on your training, a lot of athletes out there could probably just do that. Like if you're overthinking, just go get better. Go to the gym and, think about where your feet are, which is, in the present moment for sure. So I think that's a phenomenal point for sure.
And I wonder too if if that taking that sort of mentality is even more important when there is, of course, now we're all of course rooting for you to make it to the PWHL. I know you are as well, of course. That's what this is all about. But there is, of course, the side of the reality that you may not hear your name called. How will you handle that moment as well?
I think, hearing your name called is just such a special moment. And, it gives me goosebumps kinda thinking about it because that moment, it doesn't happen often for a lot of athletes. So, just being there in general, I can imagine is very stressful, but hearing your name, I feel is just like a weight off your shoulders. But obviously, teams have, their opinions on things. So, as heart-wrenching as it would be if I didn't get drafted, I don't think it would change my mindset. I think if anything, it would just be, well, regardless of where you get drafted, training camp's not till November, so anything can happen, and, I think that's where you put your head down and you get to work. So, you hope for the best, June is coming shortly, and all you can do is prepare and just, hope they've seen enough of your game because, that's what I've tried to do each year is, show that I'm getting better, I'm working harder each year, and I, put up almost a half a point a game, 4 years of college hockey, didn't miss a single game, whether it's injury or not. I was in the locker room one game and they were like, "You can't play." And I'm like, "No, I'm not missing a single college hockey game," because before you know that, with the snap of a finger, it's over.
And that's exactly what I wanted to hear from that answer. That's fantastic. Yes. Um, okay, so I also want to talk, you know, when you think there are so many moments, of course, throughout your collegiate career that have prepared you for this moment, for embarking on a professional career. But I was wondering from you, I know that you mentioned one earlier, but are there any other moments that you can think of that you feel like have really prepared you to take this next step? Whether it's a mindset, whether it's literally just how you are now preparing for a game, like you changed, pregame warm up, you changed this, you did that, that has really prepared you to go pro. Do you have any of those moments that you can recall?
I think this season at Clarkson has prepared me more than I could have known. Um, I've gotten to experience different systems, which I think has really helped me. We changed our system multiple times to try to, fix, you know, different problems. And I feel I can now get that versatility on any team, whatever system they're running, whatever team they're playing against. And I've really taken pride in being the player that the coach asked to shut down their top line. And I did that a lot in Mercyhurst, playing almost 30 minutes some nights, and I think that's preparing me for the pro level. Not only, like, are you in shape and you've played against the best players in the world, but even coming to Clarkson, getting top lines assigned to you, that really prepares you because in the PW, you're playing against 4 lines of top college players. So you have to be able to skate with them and play with them and be physical with them. So I think that this year has really prepared me to, take that role and run with it.
And you absolutely will. Now, I know that we've talked about staying where your feet are, being present, being in the moment, but I really want to know when you hear your name called, what do you think is going to be the first thing that will run through your head? What do you think is going to be the first thing, or maybe the first person that comes to mind when you hear your name called on draft night?
I think the first thing without a doubt is it was all worth it. And the reason I say that is because it's been a long process. Coming where I came from, being the first player to be from Indiana to get drafted to the PWHL, thinking about the endless hours my parents were driving me up and back and, just to get this dream, going, across the country for college and high school and, you know, they never missed a game for me. And hearing my name called would not just be a moment for me, it would most importantly be a moment for them that their little girl finally made it.
That's powerful right there. That's powerful.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
getting a little teary-eyed because I'm about to hit
yeah.
the gym. I'm like, "Oh my god, I gotta get myself together here. It's not
Yeah,
drafting
exactly.
yet."
Yeah. Okay, so we have now arrived at the final buzzer segment of the show. And we're going to do things a little bit differently with this one because, of course, you've already been on the show. So I'm not going to ask you the same questions all over again. So we have a fresh set of questions for the very first time on this show. Congratulations.
Uh,
Um, so we are going to start with looking back at your time at Mercyhurst and at Clarkson. What is one tradition, or I'll give you a tradition, or a locker room moment that you think you're going to really miss as you look at this next chapter?
that's so hard.
Yeah, that's why I said I broadened it to a moment. Intentionally, it was one moment, but let's go with a moment.
Yeah, I think the locker room I think I'll miss most is the post-game win celebrations. We'll keep it at that. Um, that feeling after you win, any OT winner, game winner like that, those are always special.
Okay, this one's projecting a little bit, but I want to know as well. You've had the opportunity, of course, during your NCAA career to play in a number of different really, really cool arenas. Is there one specific city or arena in the PWHL where you are most looking forward to or dying to play a home game in?
Yeah, I think looking at the PWHL, they've played in so many, phenomenal NHL venues. I hope they get to the United Center because that was my rink growing up. That was, watching the Blackhawks era. And, if I could step on that ice knowing that like I was the little girl that was watching, um, that would be pretty special getting, a takeover tour or maybe even a team in Chicago.
Absolutely. Now that you have declared for the draft, I this is something that I'm always really curious to know. What is one thing that you may do to treat yourself or to maybe celebrate the milestone? Maybe it's the milestone of declaring. Maybe it's also the milestone of hearing your name called. What's one way that you're going to celebrate either one of those moments? You can take whichever one you'd like.
To celebrate, I think maybe taking a vacation or a day off.
Yeah,
I don't
well
take
deserved.
them often, and
Yeah.
I don't take a vacation often where I'm not thinking about trying to prepare myself physically and be in the best shape possible. So I think maybe just one of those, maybe just one day where you're just, relaxing because that's hard for me. The word relax doesn't come around often.
Yeah, you've shown that time and time again. But now's all the more reason why this is the moment to be able to take that. Before that, the next chapter of your career. Um, I want to end with this question, and it's that now that you've had an incredible junior career, an incredible collegiate career. Now that you've had all of those moments, they're all behind you now. You're ready to embark on this next chapter. What would you tell your younger self about that journey to this moment, to being on the verge of hearing your name called in the PWHL?
No, I'd probably just say have fun because I'm sure that little girl is stressing, thinking, I can't play in the NHL. I can't do this. I can't, there's only one Olympic team type of thing. And just have fun because everything's gonna work out. There's an opportunity for you that you can finally see it and believe that you can achieve it.
That's perfect. All right, and that
Father.
wraps nailed it again. Once again, she nails it. That wraps up the final buzzer segment of the show and today's episode. Megan, it was a pleasure being able to speak with you before on episode 96. It's been an even bigger pleasure to have the opportunity now to speak with you ahead of this exciting next chapter. It is an honor to have been able to call you a friend of the show. I cannot wait to continue cheering you on in your inevitably successful professional career. Thank you so much for taking the time to join the show, and good luck on draft night. You better believe I am rooting for you.
Thank you so much, Chris. It means a lot what you're doing for the game.
I appreciate that. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps me to continue bringing you stories just like Megan's from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Rinkside Rundown.